In this channel, we will always talk about fundamentals. If you don't know what this is all about, you can watch this video to learn more about fundamentals. You can also watch this video to learn how to use overlapping to create depth in your picture. If you want to learn how to draw good pictures, you need to use simple shapes. But if you want to learn how to draw more realistic pictures, you need to use three-dimensional shapes. I'm Gus, and this is Gus Illustration. The cube is the most basic shape, and you need to learn how to draw it. Using the cube, you can create all kinds of shapes. You can create square shapes and even rounder shapes. If you want to learn more about how to use cubes in your creations, you can watch this video about the box technique. The cube is one of the most basic shapes. You can create almost any shape starting from a cube. You can create almost any picture, almost any figure starting from the cube. The artist Michelangelo once said, "The sculpture is already complete within the marble block before I start my work. It is already there. I just have to chisel away the superfluous material." A cube is such a basic shape that you can turn it into almost any other shape. And if you continue cutting every corner, you're going to get every time a rounder and rounder shape. In a kind of very simple way, you can get a shape that is going to be very similar to a circle. I'm going to continue cutting these edges. I start turning my circle into one dome. The same concept we applied in here, we can apply it in our drawing. We can use the cube as our base shape, and then we can start turning that cube into any shape we want. So let's learn how to draw a cube. To draw a basic cube, we are going to draw one line. This is going to be a vertical line. This line is going to be the corner of the cube. Then we're going to draw other two lines next to them. These two lines are going to be a little bit higher than this line, and they are also going to be a little bit shorter. In this case, what I'm going to do when I have these two lines is I'm going to join the ends. To close this cube, I'm going to simply draw one line exactly like this one in here with this angle, and one line exactly like this one angle over here. So I have one cube that is correct, but this cube is mostly an isometric more than a perspective cube. If you try to draw a cube more in perspective, you're going to notice how the lines are starting to get closer as they go at the end at some point. But in this case, because this is more an isometric cube, we're going to see how all of the angles are going to remain pretty much the same. You can add more cubes to this cube just by using the three main angles. This angle over here, this angle over here, and the vertical line. If you use these angles, anything you do is using this angle for every line going to the left, using this angle for every line going to the right, and then using vertical lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw another cube coming out of here. So I'm going to use my vertical line, I'm going to use my line going to the left, I'm going to use my line going to the right, and then I'm going to start connecting all of these lines together. If you see, we have another cube using the same angles as before. We can do any kind of cube over here, and we can create any shape we want using this cube. Something very important to keep in mind is shading. Anytime we draw three-dimensional shapes, shading is a part of the drawing. In this case, we're going to start by defining where the light is coming from. The light is going to come from the left and from the top, in this case, going like that. So it means that every part in the left of the cube is going to be light, and any part in the right of the cube is going to be dark. Because the light is coming mostly from the top plane in these two cubes is going to be very light. You can use your finger or a stump to make the shading even softer. Because the light is also coming from the left side is also going to be in light, so this one is going to be a little bit darker than the top. I color my first layer vertically, but my second layer I'm going to color it in the same direction as this line. So we didn't make the darker color not by pressing harder, but by repetition. The next part is going to be the shadow. So in this case, we're going to make a darker color. If you see, I'm holding my pencil really long so I can use the side of my pencil. The same as before, I'm going to color in this direction, in the direction of the line. This is a little bit uncomfortable for me because I'm left-handed, so I need to turn my hand in a very awkward position. But here it is my basic cube shaded with the light area and with the dark area. Now we have to complete a few more things. Number one, we're going to project the shadow from this little cube over this one. So over here, we're going to project a little shadow over here. This shadow is going to be darker closer to the cube and it's going to be lighter farther away from it. It's going to go over here, very dark at the beginning, almost the same darkness as here, and then lighter. It's going to receive some extra light from around the cube. The next thing we're going to see is how these two are going to have a shadow. Normally the shadow for them should follow the same shape as they are. So pretty much they're going to go from here, from this corner, going diagonally, and from the corner that is hidden behind here, also going diagonally, something like that. Then we're going to see how other angles are going to also show in the shadow, creating something similar to this. Something to keep in mind is that we don't actually need to have all of this shadow all of the time. Most of the times, we're going to start with a shadow very dark, closer to the base of the shape. But then this shadow is going to start getting lighter and lighter really quickly because there is light coming from around. So we're going to get something like this. I actually don't need this line, so I'm going to erase them. All these border lines are going to go, so we just keep the actual shadow in place. Don't forget that this corner over here is going to be much darker than the rest of the shape, because anytime we have corners, those corners are going to be darker. And also the very base of the cube is going to be darker because that is the contact point. To draw a shape that has different cubes together, something we need to add is variation in angles. For example, we can use the same kind of idea for the angles going left or right, pretty much with all the shape in the top, but we can turn the vertical line into a diagonal line. So like that, we have one cube that is quite slanted. So again, using same angles here, 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 and here. The only thing that is changing is the angle for the vertical line. But we can also simply turn the cube completely. Simply turn the vertical lines and then draw the diagonal lines in the same angle for them. We do exactly the same as we did before, only turning everything to the left or to the right. The first thing I'm going to do is to draw my 3 angles, and from there I can start creating my picture. Drawing every time, so everything in the same exact angle. Remember, in this case, we're going to create not a picture in perspective, but an isometry. So I'm going to continue adding more and more and more cubes over here using the exact same angles. So I'm going to add another one over here. In this case, I'm not creating any specific picture. I'm just drawing shapes put together. Remember to always draw from your shoulder. Turn your hand, turn your body as you are drawing. If you know how to draw your straight lines, this is just basically something we do as a draft, so we don't need an actual ruler for working on this. Once you understand your basic ideas for drawing cubes, you can start creating even more things. For example, you can create cuts on the cubes. For example, you can draw, like I'm going to extend this over here. I'm going to extend this line. I'm going to create one cut. So in this cut, I'm going to simply draw this line going in this direction inside the cube. So you see how this one over here is going inside this way. Let's erase some of the lines so they are not confusing for you. So see how this line is going inside. We can, for example, create another cut. Over here, I'm going to simply cut this in the middle. I'm going to use the same angle as over here. And I'm going to draw a vertical line to create another cut. Create another cut over here. This one, I'm going to go over here. And I'm going to create another shape over here. So right now we have something similar to a T shape getting inside this cube. I'm going to create another cut just over here, simply using this line. I'm going to draw something over here and something over here. Then I'm going to use my verticals. I can erase this line, and then I'm going to use this angle to create this shape over here. So you can create a lot of different shapes using just your cubes. This over here is a much more complex picture. So, is it possible to shade it easily? Well, the answer is yes. All you need to do is to think about how the planes are going to be in the picture. Anything that is in the top is going to be light. Anything in the left is going to be a little bit darker. Anything in the right is going to be darker. All of that, if we keep in mind the same idea of the light that we kept from before. So everything in the top is going to be light. Remember to use the side of your pencil, use an overhand position, or simply hold your pencil very long for using the side of your pencil. I'm going to use a stump to make my shading even softer, so I'm simply going to go over the coloring very soft with the stump. The left side is going to be a little bit darker than that. Just color all of them consistently darker than before. Now I'm going to make the right sides even darker. Okay, now over here inside the cube, we're going to have a lighter part over here. There's also a top part. And this part over here is going to be even darker because it is inside the actual cube. Also, there's this part over here, this area over here is going to be a little bit darker because we have all of this block on top. Then don't forget the shadows. To have a little shadow over here, also a little shadow over here, just darker very close to the base of the cube. To make this corner over here a little bit darker, we can now color the rest of the shadows. In this case, we don't need to be extremely specific with the shadows, just showing how they're going to be just darker in the right of the shape. A little bit over here with this shape. We're going to use the stump to make them softer, and my fingers a little bit. Just make sure that the shadows are always darker close to the base. Once you get to understand your cubes, you can start creating really amazing things with them. You're going to start over here with a cube, turn to the side. Actually, I'm going to make it so you can see the bottom of this cube a little bit. In this case, for this cube, I'm caring about this line, about this line, and about this line, and all of the lines, I'm going to make them exactly just like those. It is possible that because I'm going to be drawing cubes in different positions, I'm going to need to see how these are going to adjust to the new positions. I'm going to draw a cube that is going to be more vertical. In this case, the lines I'm going to keep for this cube are going to be these ones over here. This one is cut because it's pretty much going inside this part. This over here would be one basic picture. So to this we could add some shading, and then over we could start actually drawing a real picture, having already one shading to start with our actual final picture. So I started by putting the darkest shadows in all the right area in this kind of robot. Now I'm going to the half tones, so everything that is a little bit to the front of the character is going to be lighter than this over here. So all of the areas in front, in the left, are going to be a lighter gray. This part that is facing down is going to be darker. And pretty much everything facing upwards is going to be lighter. Don't forget some actual shadows from the neck and the head over the shoulder, for example. Possibly this corner over here is going to be even darker, like so. If you squint pretty hard, like so, you're going to see how these actual squares start looking like the actual shading for a character. Something that looks pretty okay. We can even add some actual lines for a character on top of this blur image, and we'll see how it starts looking like an actual character. And remember that it was just done using cubes. I hope you liked this video and that you can use what you learned here in your future creations. If you did, please share, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. Remember to follow me in my social networks, TikTok and Instagram. Adios.